Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Hello, and welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel for this very, very special day because we are streaming non-stop, it feels.
Yeah.
We are starting out with the build-up show as we always do for these pay-per-views, but this time around we're actually going to do a watch-along as well, so stick around later on for that, and then we'll be doing our recap and review on the same day as the show. Can you imagine that, Lucas? We don't have to go to bed.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I know other time zones obviously differ, but this is a beautiful time for us in the UK. Like to watch the pay-per-view, like the pre-show's at 4 p.m. The main show kicking off at 5, and assuming how many hours they wish this to be, it's a 3 or 4 hour show potentially, but let's say 9 o'clock finish, so hopefully before that, but it's a beautiful time, isn't it?
Even if it does go late, it's like, we've done 5 a.m, mate.
I mean, because obviously when we do our we often discuss actually, like when we do our kind of reviews and stuff, when these pay-per-views do go beyond the 3.5 hour mark, that's when I, in particular, am struggling. My eyes, no matter what it is, it could be and there's been some really good stuff in the main events lately, but it's just like my eyes can't stay open. My body wants to. Like when I was younger, like you'd be able to all the time, but I think like now, like your body just doesn't let you, does it?
No, I don't. I mean, we're definitely not the spring chickens we once were, Lucas. But yeah, I think that's a great point though, because main events are what suffers, and like there was a time where main event matches weren't the most exciting. They were just big, high impact as far as like big. That's it. Like no real kind of technical stuff or suspense at times. But like the caliber of main event, matches is kind of changed in the past few years. I think there's always, you've got some big stars, not just stars, but like people that can go. Really exciting matches. And it is a shame when you're falling asleep thinking it's not the match, it's not the performers, it's me.
Yeah, I think particularly because obviously the Roman Reigns stuff has gone quite long in the past few months. It means the pay-per-view main events have been pretty much, once you add the emphasis and the hype video and all the other stuff they want to do before and after stuff, it is almost an hour, long kind of crusade. But this one, obviously, a good time for us and a very, very stacked card. We've obviously already done part 1, haven't we, of our predictions?
We did indeed.
Of this, but there's still more to go, and also that's coming in the second half of this hour-long kind of build-up show. But I'm really excited by the show, like really excited, because obviously when they first announced the Saudi deal, and obviously it's a long partnership as part of the Saudi 2030 sports bid, basically. But it's a 10-year partnership they have with Saudi. I'm not too sure whether because of the pandemic, if obviously it's been extended or whatever, but it's a long time they had this deal for, isn't it? And but it did always feel their own thing, wasn't it? It was very much just like, oh, they're showing Saudi, and this match is going to happen. This match is going to happen. This time they really integrated it into the stories much more. So it feels like it's its own separate pay-per-view, doesn't it?
Well, I feel like it felt like a novelty before. It was like, what's it going to look like? What kind of match? It was a really strange match, the greatest Royal Rumble, things like that. It felt like Braun Strowman's show. He always had something big going on at these shows. So it's a shame he's not about anymore. And then it's strange when you look at the 2019 one, which is obviously the last one we saw. That was the controversial one with what happened behind the scenes. And there was none last year, obviously, for obvious reasons. So it's almost like that's kind of downplayed things, and like it's kind of a break they needed to stretch it, because obviously when the talk of this show came up again, inevitably there were kind of like the same old conversations, and trust me, it's fair to have a lot of those conversations surrounding this event and this partnership, but I'm just talking for kind of like a WWE point of view. it's kind of worked out in their favor that things have calmed down a little bit, because these conversations did come back up, but now it's just like, okay, and they've ramped it up, and like you said, it's like a WrestleMania worthy card. I feel, I know that's a big statement, but I feel it's huge with the Hell in a Cell, King of the Ring, Queen's Crown, and yes, Queen's Crown could become nothing next year, or this could be the start of something really, really nice, like the World Cup, I think should have been. So it's worked out very, very well. You've got the Crown Jewel. Where better place, if you're not going to do King of the Ring as a pay-per-view, what better place than now?
Well, yeah, it fits. It really does fit. And obviously, I've got a lot of stuff to say about King of the Ring, which obviously we're going to get into their predictions very soon. But I think in terms of, the show feeling big, I think that might be what they were discussing in this break. Because obviously, the show before, while they seemed very big, it has felt very much like, well, next day it's business as usual, nothing really. If you missed a Saudi event previously, it wasn't really necessary for you to kind of go back and watch these things. Obviously, they have had big title changes. The Universal Championship did change hands twice, both times involving actually Bray Wyatt, wasn't it? And obviously Seth Rollins, 3 times actually, technically, because of Brock Lesnar won it when it was vacated by Roman Reigns in that weird match he had with obviously Braun Strowman. Who, interesting you mentioned him, he was a big part of these, wasn't he? He did his match with Tyson Fury as well, over in Saudi. He faced obviously Lesnar for that vacant belt. In Saudi, he won the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi. So yeah, it is very much like he was tied to it quite a lot. But I'd argue other people have been done too. Like especially Mansoor, like it's been his kind of thing. The past, it's been when he's made appearances. But this time they have obviously given him a feud and a storyline, to go into this with, which is much more exciting. And I mean, the Queen's Crown tournament, represents, the biggest change really, I'd say, from the original Saudi shows to now. Because when you think they weren't even allowed to wrestle on the first couple of events,
point, yeah.
The graphic was booed, for I think it was Lacey Evans against Becky Lynch, wasn't it?
It's going to be very interesting.
Was booed. Just the premise, the idea of women wrestling was booed. And then we went to, I think, wasn't Natalya against Lacey Evans the first women's match they had there?
Yeah, when they wore T-shirts, which I am kind of thinking, well, how's the Queen's Crown one going to be today? Like, there's going to be this promo footage forever of someone being crowned. Are they going to be wearing a big Raw T-shirt or something? You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be interesting to see how they play that. Something interesting as well has popped up over the past few days, and this comment's going to allude to it right here. Thank you for commenting here. Aman CR7 says, any chance for a surprise return other than The Undertaker? So first of all, we'll go with The Undertaker thing there. Right, surely The Undertaker's going to show up because he's in Saudi, and he introduced Pitbull on stage, which, we've talked a lot about this over the past few months since the terrible retirement, goodbye, farewell thing they did at Survivor Series that I think was so poorly done and a real shame for his career. And we talked about, the Last Ride documentary, kayfabe, and The Undertaker doing interviews and stuff like that, right? I'm sure everybody's got their own view on how far he should go. If he's gone too far, not gone far enough, it's okay. Doesn't matter, whatever else, right? I'm somewhere in the middle, but I do think coming out to bring out Pitbull of all artists doesn't quite fit The Undertaker's character. Now, I understand as Pitbull, as a wrestling fan, he's been involved with WWE many, many times. Yeah, cool. There's that kind of connection, but surely it was a money grab. And like it's not like he's introducing Metallica, which you could kind of see. Like, you could kind of see that with The Undertaker. And I'm sure still people would argue about that. But for me, the Pitbull thing doesn't fit. First of all, what are your thoughts on the whole Pitbull situation? And secondly, do you see him showing up? And then after that, we'll talk about the question for us, any other surprises.
Well, yeah, in terms of Undertaker, I think how I've kind of split up in my head is like, if he's making an appearance in the ring on a WWE event, or let's say wrestling event, just in case people want to flirt the idea of him going elsewhere, but it's a WWE event he'll be appearing on. He's got a 15-year contract, he ain't getting out of that. I think, yes, he has to obviously do something that is Undertaker-like. So I think, yes, if the Pitbull performance was as part of this show, and obviously the show is a wrestling show, or sorry, a sports entertainment WWE show, then I think, yes, the Undertaker has to appear and do something that's Undertaker-like. He has to come out and do Tombstone Piledriver or Choke Slam or have his dark entrance, that kind of stuff. But I think for stuff that's outside of the in-ring product, I think that I'm not too fussed him doing it. I mean, the man's got to make money. End of the day, it's hard because obviously, I guess, like we've always known him as the Undertaker. You know, he's never really been presented in any other way. It is weird when that happens. And the same thing, to be fair, like when, 10 years ago or so, when Triple H transitioned from obviously the Cerebral Assassin full-time wrestler to, oh, wait a minute, now this guy's cut his hair short, he's wearing a suit, and he's all of a sudden, doing business meetings and, assigning new talent and, having that kind of side of the business kind of showing the thorn. And it was very weird for a long time, wasn't it? Obviously, in this scenario, like, it's a bit more extreme because The Undertaker obviously was such a character that we all grew up with. But it's just reality of what it is. Like, what people expect him to do if he can't wrestle? I know people are still flirting with him people are still wanting him to have further appearances or matches in the company, whether they be cinematic or not. But I think it's past that now. Like, I think if he wanted to come out of retirement, there would have been options for him to do so clearly already. They just had SummerSlam in front of 40,000 people. Your Survivor Series is coming up. They had this obviously Saudi show where, like, if he wanted to wrestle, he would have wrestled, surely. But I think that he understands that has gone, that time's gone for him to do so. And rightfully so, really, because I think he'd be at the risk of injuring himself and just destroying his legacy. But in terms of this stuff, like, I think people have to understand that the guy's just trying to make money, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And like touching on what you said there as well about the Undertaker, like in matches, appearances, and we did say again on that Survivor Series stream from the old, the main Rebellious Noise channel before we split into the Pro Wrestling channel over here. So if you're new, please subscribe. Well, we were talking about then about like, should he do cinematic matches? Should he kind of do what we see now with the new film actually that he's done with the New Day? If you fancy checking it out, we did a watch along. For that as well, the Netflix special, and we also did a review, so please check those out on the channel when you get a bit of time as well. They were very, very interesting. But yeah, in that, me and Rob talked a lot about what we'd like to see The Undertaker 2 do after this. We were talking about possibility of graphic novels and like actual feature-length movies and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of get what you're saying outside of WWE, not on presentation, like he's just putting on the costume and whatever else. I guess you can accept it, whereas if he was with Pitbull on the show, maybe it wouldn't work as well. But yeah, you're saying about like him just showing up, and that's why it did annoy us on the Survivor Series thing of like he's probably gonna be here at Crown Jewel and choke someone, and that's okay. So don't tell us at Survivor Series this is the last time we'll ever see him. Like, just like there was no point in that. But again, if you want to check that out, check out a Survivor Series review from last year because we've ranted about that for a long, long time. Moving away from the Undertaker, let's quickly go on kind of a carry on of that question really, and who we think surprise wise. I've already touched on Braun Strowman. I think if anyone was to come back, he would make sense. It's his kind of show, and I think him come back to WWE would make sense anyway. But the person who did the question, Aman CR7, has followed up with a sort of tweet regarding that Wyndham is in Saudi. I mean, I haven't seen this tweet. I don't know who's tweeted it, so I don't want to speculate on how realistic it really is. But from an outsider, I don't see that happening, especially all these new rumors as to why they got rid of him and stuff like that. I don't see it. I'd love to see him back. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see Bray do anything again. But as far as other people returning, I don't really see it. I think Undertaker might be a special kind of person to show up. But other than that, do you see anyone else showing up, mate?
No, I think obviously it's already stacked quite high. In terms of surprise people, I guess they have kind of waiting in the wings, so to speak, or people who can make a big enough impact. I think the ship has kind of sailed on most of them, and one of them, I guess, they are saving for someone. I'll name drop the people. Obviously, the people who obviously were on already, obviously like Edge and Goldberg and that ilk. People they have in their pocket, I'm guessing, would be people like John Cena, but I think he's obviously too busy.
I mean, Triple H or Shawn Michaels could come out because they're backstage or something like that.
I think if Shawn Michaels does come out, I'm hoping he sorted his hair out.
He's got the cowboy hat. It's all right.
It is crazy. I don't. You know what? Like, it's hard because you don't want to shame someone for like how they look, but I think presentation wise, I don't understand how he's got so bad, Shawn Michaels, in such a short amount of time. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like,
it was that time where he went bald, he shaved his hair, and another time where he made it really short and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of times he comes out and I think, oh, this is another different look.
I mean, we know from his podcast, I think with Stone Cold, and like how he's kind of said that he's a fan of chewing tobacco, and like that's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do. Fair enough, but it started to show like his teeth are not good, but that way you can just tell that's what he does, and it's just like okay. But yeah, I think I can see maybe Triple H doing the intro, maybe just to get that pop. WWE are very kind of relaxed with this kind of stuff, in the sense of like, not relaxed, but in the sense of they will just have someone come out and do an intro. That'll be their way of saying, oh, well, that was their appearance. But obviously, as we know from AEW, they'll be going through tables and managing people and in stables within the first kind of 5 minutes of being in the company. But WWE are very much like, no, we just have Hogan come out and do a WrestleMania intro.
And say hello.
Just come out and do 2 lines, and then he goes on.
The host. That whole host WrestleMania thing annoys me, man. But, I think if anyone's likely, it probably will be someone like Triple H. Other than The Undertaker, who seems kind of a surefire. Like, if he's over there.
Yeah, I don't think Stone Cold showed much interest in this stuff, and I think.
Nah.
I guess he's probably one of the big names that haven't done this, but he's at that level where he does not have to do it. He's just one of those stars that, as much as people want to see him, it's just like if he don't want to do it, he ain't gonna want to do it. So. Yeah,
and then you've got other names. I think like Foley, who I think would. Kind of get some stick for the way he is online. I think he's the kind of person that would be against this kind of payday. Just judging from the outside, certain people.
Actually, saying that though, Foley has history with Edge, isn't he?
Yeah. And
he also did a very, very interesting promo. It was a few years ago, I think, and Rollins was going to face Kane, wasn't it? Inside Hell in a Cell, I believe. And
it is Hell in a Cell.
Foley was doing. It was back in that era when Foley was just doing promos. Like to get people over. Like Foley's always someone they used to bring out, wasn't it? Like to get the feud over. Like when the feud, because obviously Foley just an amazing promo guy. But no one's seen the Kane Jury promo from ECW days. Like bloody hell, like go back and watch that. But anyway, digress. But return to Foley, like he's good for elevating these feuds to make it go like oh crap, and he's really good at selling the cell as a structure. As we've seen in the past when he's got obviously. Not just involved physically in the matches, as we know, but in terms of even when he guest ref one, didn't it? As well, guest ref one, he was still taking bumps in that. So, Foley, it's not actually a bad shout, to be fair.
I feel that'd be more in the run up though on Raw and SmackDown, or they're on SmackDown, aren't they? At the moment?
Yeah, that's the thing. Has that shit kind of sell? I guess. I mean, they could have him on a video package talking about it potentially, but then it's not the same as him appearing there, in person. But yeah, I think. This is the trouble, like, we'll get to, obviously, as we go forward going to the Royal Rumble, that kind of season, it does get very difficult now to pick these names because we are talking about people are going to have to either do something, to get out of an AEW contract, which as we don't know how that works now. Like, we know how WWE have worked in the past with certain people, and let them go early or have done certain things to kind of make sure they're out of the company. But how does the AEW situation work? Like, and are people going to want to leave AEW as soon as January, to make these Rumble surprises happen? And obviously, all the other big names are contracted to places like New Japan, and then so it's WWE. They have to reach out to people who essentially are not signed by like basically AEW, New Japan, or their own company, to do so. So it's very hard to get these surprises, I think. And obviously the well is quite dry with some of the people because, like you say, like Stone Cold can return, fair enough, and he can stun someone, but that's about all he can do. At this point, he doesn't want to wrestle anymore. And Foley, like, honestly, I never, ever, ever wish to see him take a bump ever again. Like, seeing how he's ended up and how he talks about his injuries and stuff. Like, I just, I know he's one of those guys who would be a bit like, yeah, I'll take a stomp from Seth Rollins to get him over. Or, yeah, I'll be choked out by Roman on SmackDown to get him over. But it's like, you don't need to do it anymore. Like, there's certain people, it's like, just stop. So yeah, it's hard to pick these surprises. I mean, maybe some smaller NXT level surprises potentially. I don't know. It's weird. We're not doing about a Raw or anything, are they? So they're not doing anything kind of for that level. It's all big stuff. I
mean, the thing is, though, like you said, it's a stacked show. Like they don't really need to do anything like that. So I quickly get to another point here from JP. Was Austin Theory going for 24/7 championship? Did they kill him too? I don't really understand what's going on there. What that's alluded to. I haven't seen much of that, to be honest myself. Do you understand any of that, Lucas?
I've seen Austin Theory's defeated Jeff Hardy twice on Raw.
Okay.
In the weeks that he's thing, I'm not too sure whether he's been part of that 24/7 title.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on with that title? Are they not retired it yet?
So, But I think if he's done that alongside beating Jeff Hardy twice, 2 times, I don't think it's as much of a. I think one of these things where like we as fans or the internet as fans, kind of look at these things differently. Like I think Jeff kind of said it best with his tweet of like, well, what was on the table was that week. It was that of basically sitting catering essentially, and so he went along with that. And then the next week, obviously, he was able to get his way into the US title match. And WWE's just like that now. Like we've learned, like actually seen there's people that were on the SummerSlam card last year, on the WrestleMania card this year, who no longer are employed by that company because it's just a case of they like you 1 minute and then the next minute, when they've had to make budget cuts, or when they've had to when they're just changing things around like they are doing, this past kind of 6 months or so. That's that. So yeah, I don't know if it's as bad a thing as that. Like, it's very difficult with this stuff really, because I was actually thinking about this feud quite recently because I'm thinking, well, Jeff Hardy, I think, is someone who I feel anyway. There's very few baby faces in history that have been as universally loved as Jeff Hardy has been. That period, like 2007 to 2009. Like when he was just like so, like people were screaming for him to win everything. Like, I think if you went back and if we was to do a retro Reb Noise Rumble prediction from 2008 and anything prediction 2008, I think we would have said Jeff Hardy to win everything. Like everyone wanted him to win absolutely everything he was in. It was impossible. It was mad. And when he did win the championship, obviously, that triple threat. People loved it. And then when he won the World Championship and had the CM Punk feud, like, people absolutely adored him.
He was on such a great run there. And the great feuds, like I said, the CM Punk feud, the Edge feud. I think he faced off against Triple H a bit as well. Like, that period there, like, it was... Because then again, he leaves not long after and shows up in TNA, and it's like, whoa, this is a statement, because that was the first Monday Night Wars rebranded, wasn't it? When Hogan and Bishop showed up. He showed up as a surprise and climbed on that weird red cage thing. But, like... Yeah. He was so over, like, and it baffles me how they haven't jumped back on that since he's been back.
Well, yeah, like, even when he kind of returned, like, when the Hardy returned, obviously, eventually they then split up and they let Matt do his Woken thing. It's like, okay, right, you got Jeff, like, put them on different brands. You got Jeff, let's go. Let's trap a rocket to him and just go with it, because the momentum was already there. It wasn't easy stuff to do. But anyway, my point basically was, like, you got Jeff Hardy, everyone loves, everyone wants to get a push. Then if he now beats Austin Theory, is he then going to get the ire of internet fans being like, well, now I'm burying a younger talent? Because Austin Theory, 24 years old, now just debuted on Monday Night Raw, got potentially a very, very good career ahead of him. He's this good already, obviously at 24. And, as we know, most main event performers now are in their 30s already. So we are looking at him potentially having a very lengthy career on the main roster. And so, it's very difficult. I'm thinking, like, how fans will take this, and it's very hard because now he's beaten, obviously, Jeff twice. But then if next week, he's in the ring with, I don't know, like another WWE mainstay, and he loses, is he now, quote unquote, buried? Like, because of this. It's very odd times, this, though, because, I mean, like we said, we've seen Keith Lee debut, re-debut as Bearcat Keith Lee, beat Akira Tozawa, and then not be on television since. Yeah,
I mean, the past year's been full of that, hasn't it? Like you say, like, people getting vignettes and then released. Like, it's such a strange time, and even that, like, still, I think the amount of times over the last 6 months we've had this conversation about Jeff going, like, are they going to push him? Like, is that what's going on here? Like the Karrion Kross thing, another example on the flip side of that. Karrion Kross coming up, not doing much, changing his character. Looks like they're about to change it again. Like Keith Lee in and out of prominent positions, and like changing themes, changing looks, changing names. Like, it's just a constant in this. It feels like nothing is stable enough to go. Like, there are so many unsure kind of positions with, like, if you put Keith Lee in a match against Jeff Hardy, I genuinely have no idea who's going to come out on top or why. You could argue both sides of it. If you put Karrion Kross against either of those, the same thing of like, well, it depends on. But I feel like we've been saying it about, especially those three people, for the past few months, quite a lot. And it is such a strange time because, again, if someone beats someone, you're like, we don't know how to, like you say, is he being buried? Is this one burying this one? It's a weird time, man.
Yeah, it's a very weird time. But look, in terms of this kind of show, though, like, I think, there's a lot of people in positions, in good positions on this show. I think though, there is a better direction, I think, for the company now overall. I think it's always an odd time. This obviously we just have the draft as well, and even that actually has shown that they actually do care about Crown Jewel, because they've obviously established the fact that the rules of the draft are effective obviously tomorrow. So tomorrow, obviously, on SmackDown, there'll be the new draft additions. Then on Monday night, you'll see the new additions from Monday Night Raw obviously make appearances. And obviously, there were some big moves kind of happening about. But I do think we're reaching a period again where there are like a lot of similar names getting drafted. I don't know if you picked this up, but obviously New Day and the Street Profits have now been drafted 2 years in a row, like to the other brand. So they've basically been reset. The New Day obviously were on SmackDown, got drafted to Raw, and then the whole swap of the belt thing. And this year they've done the other way around. The Street Profits are now getting drafted back to Raw, and the New Day are going back to SmackDown.
But this time neither of them were titles.
The original draft too, where there was just a group of people who just constantly changed brand. I think it was like The Miz, Sheamus. There's quite a few of them basically who like every draft, like, oh, they're getting drafted. It's like, oh, I get excited about that person. But you realise, wait a minute, you're just kind of resetting it back to where they were like before. I think even a couple of years ago, I think Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn again were another two, kept going between the two brands. And so it's like, well, we just reset it each time, don't you? Like it's not making it different. You're just kind of resetting that person back to where they were like a year or 2 years ago. And so, yeah, but the draft will take place tomorrow. And also, we spoke about this in our first one, which is one of the biggest matches it impacts is potentially one of the co-main events, I think, in terms of the Raw Women's Championship match. So the SmackDown Women's Championship match, which we'll see, obviously, Becky Lynch look to retain against Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Now, obviously, we saw them on like Raw. People haven't watched it yet, but the main event of that show was Bianca Belair taking on Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship. Now, in typical WWE fashion, that match ended in a DQ. A really good match, a really, really good match, like 20 minutes pretty much of the episode. They built it up all throughout the night as well. Really, really good match, by the way. But obviously ended in DQ. Now, Charlotte Flair, who is going to be drafted to SmackDown, as we know, effective tomorrow, is walking in there with the Raw Women's Championship. So to be fair, this is where one of that surprise things could happen. As at present, there's no Raw Women's Championship match, is there, on this show?
No.
Could we see the Queen's Crown person, potentially, look to cash in or get some sort of favour to get an opportunity for that championship tonight and take it back to, obviously, Raw where it belongs?
Or even on Raw, they could do that as well.
Yeah, because I think now, obviously, the situation where they're going to have, again, we don't know the outcome of the SmackDown Women's Championship match yet, but if it is to be Becky, or Becky's going to Raw, isn't she? Yeah, Becky's going to Raw, and so is Bianca. That's it.
Yeah,
if it is to be Becky or Bianca Belair, then obviously you have basically a 2 in 3 chance of the belts obviously being on opposite shows from where they're meant to be.
I guess they would just like do that switch thing again, which I really didn't like.
I really hope not.
I mean, it's a bit easy with WWE title and the Universal because they're not named as the brands. Even though I hate.
I think it just devalues the belts, though.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you can just swap a belt. Like why don't you just do that? For instance, like before, obviously SummerSlam, fair enough, they did lose, but before SummerSlam, like why didn't RK Bro be like, oh, actually, we're going to just swap. And we just swap the belts with someone else, and we would defend on SmackDown instead. We don't want to face AJ and Omos. Like it's just silly. If you can do it once, do you know what I mean? Like this is the thing with WWE. They set these weird precedents of like it's happened once. So now, can this just happen any time? Can someone just be like, I don't want this belt anymore? Can Reggie now just say he doesn't want the 24/7 belt and wants to swap his belt with Big E?
Let's make a deal. Make a deal with someone.
Another WWE champion. I guess maybe we might, actually, to be fair, other area for surprise, if you're talking lower card workers, could be obviously some Hall of Famers, kind of, when they have those people just backstage at WrestleMania. If they're treating it like that level of event, there could be some Hall of Famers backstage, potentially to liaise with the 24/7 brigade, potentially. But obviously, we have seen Hall of Famers like Pat Patterson, win that championship before. So there could be some lower down surprises, but I do think it's very hard to kind of fall. Unless it's going to be a skyrocket level surprise, for there to be anything worth kind of doing on this show, that makes sense. Because it stacks so high. not because it's bad, but it's stacked so high. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there'd be no point just busting out someone random. Smaller people, fair enough, like in backstage segments, or you want to have something like that. But I think the only way you can add surprises really is if the Raw Women's Championship does get somewhat defended, or Charlotte maybe gets added to that match. I really don't know. There's lots of direction to go. The pre-show has just started, by the way. The pre-show doesn't look to be in Saudi. It looks to be in their studios.
Okay. But they're going to have that pre-show match, aren't they? Which we will actually predict in a minute. So hopefully it doesn't start very, very soon, because we are waiting for Rob to jump on to predict it with us. Let's have a quick another comment here. What do you think about wrestling in Saudi Arabia? I guess you mean about it being there. Hey, look, we've kind of touched on this already. It is a bit of a controversial topic in some ways, but for Saudi Arabian fans, I'm very, very happy. I think it's a great opportunity. And I thought that with the first one as well. You can see the look on some of the people's faces to get to see a WWE show live. And now to get to see, and we know as British fans, it was great seeing house shows and Insurrection and Rebellion, but, we're excited about the possibility of getting a show that means something as well, like it did with SummerSlam 92, and we've kind of touched on that already. Check out our main Rebellious Noise YouTube channel if you want to hear us talking about the possibility of the British big show they're meant to have next year as well. But as far as Saudi Arabia goes, like, again, I feel very, very happy for your fans, like out in Saudi Arabia to experience this, and now experience a pay-per-view that means something as well, because it must have grated on them like it did us a few times of like, oh, this is like the novelty wears off of like, oh, okay, we're getting a bit of a glorified house show, but now they're getting like a proper pay-per-view. So as far as that goes, personally, very, very happy for the fans and the people of Saudi Arabia to get to see something like this. And me as an outsider, as it's a great spectacle. Again, you can get into the politics and all that stuff like that, and I'm sure many people do. But as a wrestling show, I've always enjoyed them. So there's that as well. But yeah, what about you, Lucas?
Yeah, look, I think the political kind of mindset has to come off. It's a wrestling show in the day. Despite it was Linda McMahon's attempts to get into politics, the company, it doesn't matter, like, in terms of the political stance on it. It's not up to them. Same people moan about the Qatar World Cup, moan about, the big boxing match happening there. It's just where a lot of the world's money is. And so it does make sense. Obviously, they make a lot of money per show, doing this. Like you said, I think I've enjoyed seeing its journey, from its house show kind of roots, and its crazy kind of roots of like, and all the kind of stories that kind of come with the rumored stories, of like, them wanting like Yokozuna and to be in the British Royal Rumble, and obviously this time round apparently wanting CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, but obviously realizing they were signed for AEW. Obviously, allegedly with these stories, as I don't know who has his earpiece to the Sheiks, and the Prince's, earpiece. But anyway, I think, like, in terms of WWE, their global promotion, they're entitled to do shows wherever they want. I think it does open up opportunity for potential to do shows in other markets, and has kind of raised the bar, I think, and set a bar quite high, which is good in some ways, but then also not good, because obviously in terms of something which might come our way next year, we have, I don't want to jinx it, the rumours of a big pay-per-view coming to the United Kingdom next year that Drew McIntyre has hinted at many times, and the company have obviously kind of dabbled their toes in, but we know the bar is set high now. We know we're not, obviously I remember going to see like Insurrection and Rebellion, back in the day over here. I think the most we got was like a hardcore title change, and I think they did like, one tour we did like European title change hands, but it was like changing hands. It was back on the champion, obviously, before they went back to the States. Now it is this case of, obviously, especially when they had the WWE Championship change hands on SmackDown here a few years ago. It is a case of we can see big championships change hands, and big matches and big stipulations, and the bar is set high. Let's be real. And so even when they decide to do over here, and potentially obviously Mexico, that's not a big market for them, in Australia, the bar is set high at a standard, and I think that is a good thing to come out of it. And the political stuff, look, like, they're not there to kind of run the country and teach them how to do it, but they've made massive progression with stuff, like I said, the women earlier, and the fact that I think pretty much that they are getting their, the 50-50 kind of booking that they kind of do obviously over in the States anyway, with the women, where they do get treated the same as the men. And I think it is getting as close to that as possible. But one has to remember to respect, obviously, the customs, obviously, of that country, despite our moral beliefs of, obviously, of what we have grown up with. We have to obviously understand that it's a different country. But I love the Saudi shows personally, and I think if they
things have changed.
It's good.
Yeah, and like you say, things have changed. You know, like we can't deny as much as I had problems when I first watched it. I was like, oh man, like say booing the women's graphic and stuff like that. And look, I'm not too clued in with a lot of this stuff, so I don't want to speak too out of line, like politically with it. But, like you say, morally and stuff like that, there are things that maybe you can question at times. I'm an outsider for it. And what I have seen, and I have to agree in some sense, is that there has been a progression as far as women being on the show out there. Yes. Is it the same as other countries? Not quite. Is it what you get over here if they did a show here? Not quite. But is it different? Has there already been a tangible change? Yes. So maybe sometimes you have to meet in the middle. And I know that's WWE's argument here. Many times when people bring this stuff up to him, you kind of have to meet in the middle to kind of, bring it back to kind of move the needle really in this kind of situation. So I mean, first of all, to the person that commented, by the way, thank you very much for that. And anyone else commenting today, we really do appreciate it. Please subscribe, check out more of our content. After this, we'll be doing a watch along and a recap and review. But again, to the person commenting, please let us know, are you from Saudi Arabia, and do you feel that? If you're not, what do you feel about wrestling in Saudi Arabia? And if you're not from Saudi, let us know your opinions, and other people in the comments as well. Let us know your opinions as well. We'd be interested to hear those as well. And we also want to know, what match are you most looking forward to? So that's what I'm going to get on with now with you, Lucas. I'm hoping the pre-show is still not showing that match, is it?
Yeah, it's on pre-show.
All right, good, because we're still waiting for Rob to get it so we can do the predictions for that. Right. Okay, well, what match are you most looking forward to? I think for me, it's I'd say the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I think that'd be a very good match. Feud ender, hopefully. Yeah, feud ender. And I think there's some nice creative stuff that can be done in this one. I'm just hoping. Obviously, Edge have had a thing, had this obsession with him wrestling for an hour each match he has. They're like, it's part-time contract, but it means you still do full-time when you're in there. But I'm hoping it's not as long as some other stuff he's done, basically. Particularly on this show, obviously the pacing on this show like this is very, very kind of important. Obviously, there's 10 matches all in, I think, tonight. Obviously, 1 on the pre-show, 9 on the main show. So it's, it needs to get moving. But that's one of the standouts. I think dynamic-wise and kind of, I think because he's made himself different, I'm interested very much in what I guess is the main event, obviously Brock and Roman. I think, obviously, Brock returning how he did. He's doing promos. He's presented differently. Like, is he going to wrestle differently? Obviously, there's a lot that can happen. I love how big he looks in that picture compared to.
Oh, yeah, he's huge. I mean, Roman's hardly small, is he? But
it's really odd. I remember he's on that graphic. But I do get a feeling it's just because Brock Lesnar's not the kind of guy who you kind of stay for an extra hour to do more promo shots. It is just a case of whatever you can get, you take.
He looks a bit like what's that guy from Street Fighter? Is it Zangief?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah. I mean, but there's obviously the Paul Heyman dynamic to him this one, which is very interesting as to what they've done. Stuff they've done with SmackDown the past couple of weeks. I mean, the contract signing alone, that segment alone was amazing. Obviously, I don't know if you've seen that segment, Scott. Obviously with Brock kind of just being very silent, signing the Heyman giving me his massive spiel about the match, and then Roman kind of saying about it too, running it down, and then making it seem like Brock was going to be scared almost and stupid to sign the contract. Brock just signs it and then says, the immortal line of, I didn't need to read it. My advocate, Paul Heyman, read it out to me earlier. And leaving, you can imagine almost doing the, as he did. But that was a fantastic segment to do. I'm looking forward to that. To be fair, I'm looking forward to the Raw Tag Team title match. I think Omos has improved a lot. They've added some new stuff to his repertoire, and that'd be pretty cool to see, how that kind of works to make this match different. The 2 crown matches, 2 King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring, or Queen's Crown matches. I think they're always quite interesting. And, I'm hoping Rob can join us soon so we can discuss that a bit more, because I've got a lot to say about the King of the Ring stuff. Some really good stuff all around, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on it a few times. You know, it's a stacked card, and even something like this. You know, Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali, like, and just for what it will mean for both those guys. I saw a great thing of that Ali shared himself, actually saying that he wants to break down barriers and he wants to be that guy, and he understands that he might not get the benefits of that. A lot of things he's doing, it might be the next guy, as far as kind of what do you call it, like representation and things like that. And you can tell with the way it's like he's very outspoken, and he's telling the truth about a lot of things. You know, the way they've dropped the ball with him, not used him at certain times, and not got the best out of certain situations with him. You know, thinking about the stable he was in charge of, and the kind of hacker storyline, and even before, like, just how good and on fire and exciting he was when he was a babyface. You know, when he had the mask and all this kind of, you know, in his intro, and like people loved him. Like, obviously there was the injury and stuff like that, but like, how have they not gone at least back to that? Like, there's so much you can do with him, and I think, you know, this storyline's been, you know, a good way to kind of help that next kind of level, next kind of people coming in the door and stuff like that. And, you know, we've joked on this pod a lot of times that, you know, Mansoor's like your favorite wrestler. You always like seeing him. And yeah, it's even that match, you know, there's so many matches that are like, oh, okay, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, it feels really big, and like, yeah, it's a great opportunity for both those guys really to show what they can do, and shows that, you know, they doesn't need to be still a 205 live kind of cruiserweight show when you're able to have guys, when they're good enough. They're good enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, they're good enough to have a pay-per-view match on this. Obviously, it'd be different from a cruiserweight kind of match, different from that kind of cruiserweight kind of match, but it's still a cruiserweight match. Like, it's two cruiserweights, and yeah, like, I think it's good that they've used Mansoor like this now. Like, he's actually part of the company a bit more. Before, he kind of really felt like he was a free agent. He only appeared in Saudi, and obviously he built up his undefeated streak, which obviously they ruined when he went to Raw on the first occasion of him doing so. But like, you know, he built up his undefeated streak through NXT and 205 Live over about 9 months or so. But yeah, look, it's a good one. Like, you know, it might even be one of the earlier matches on the card too. So it means that it's able to kind of get that love and support it deserves from the crowd. But yeah, like, in terms of the matches wise, the card is just so stacked, and it's so good to have King of the Ring back.
Well, before we get into that, we will do, because Rob is still trying to get with us. He's just got some scheduling issues. He will be with us soon, hopefully. So we'll get his kind of views on the King of the Ring, and the Queen's Crown when he's with us. But he sent us his predictions ahead of time for the pre-show match, just because that might be happening soon. We don't want to miss out on that predictions for that. So, in the interest of fairness, I will do. Let's get out with Dan's prediction. Dan's already predicted this as well, so let's have a look what he said. He has gone for the Usos. Dan's gone from the Usos. Rob has also gone for the Usos.
No surprise.
Okay, yeah, true. Okay, and let's have a look. What else can we do? Okay, right. Let's. How are we going to do who's going first? With me or you? Do I do that? There's not enough of us to do old. Well,
usually you'd go next, wouldn't you? Because it would go Rob. Is it Rob then me, or no?
I don't mind. Yeah, I'll go first. I don't mind. I'll give it up this time. It doesn't matter. I'll go. It's not that easy. I'd say. Surely the Usos are more protected at the time, so the Usos, I think, are going to win as well. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I think the same. It's hard because they've done like 2 villain tag teams, and obviously, like, the Hurt Business haven't really been used the best since they came back. You know, obviously, Lashley had his stuff with Goldberg going on. Would have been better, I think, just to have the Usos face like one of the new tag teams that come into SmackDown tomorrow, which is obviously the Viking Raiders. I mean, that would have been a sick match. Like, I think, yeah, it's a very odd choice, this, but it is a stellar tag match. It might, like I said, it might be we're going to have a really good tag match. That's the idea behind it, and you know, it'll be good. But yeah, I think the Usos are going to retain. It's interesting seeing the Usos obviously not make it to the main card on this, and I do get a feeling again it's because obviously their history, let's say, with some substances which, as we know, are heavily frowned upon, obviously, in Saudi Arabia. So I think that might have something to do with their card position here, because it is obviously odd having them on the pre-show when they are, in terms of SmackDown anyway, they are pretty much a main event tag team.
Yeah.
But I just can't imagine that this country of Saudi Arabia will be happy to have them kind of on a bigger stage.
Yeah, but they're still on the show. I don't know if there'd be that much kind of scope for.
I think it's one of those things where like they can be on, but like, not on a main kind of thing potentially. But yeah, look, I think the Usos have got this. It's a very weird dynamic having two, heel tag teams face each other, but that's the WWE we live in. Maybe the Usos would show more of a facey kind of side potentially. I'm really not too sure, but it should be a sellers tag team match. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the match. I think all four guys are incredible in the ring, and both teams that I really enjoy watching. Like you say, bringing the Hurt Business back hasn't been the way I'd like to have been done. Like I wish they just didn't go away in the first place. But hey, I'm glad they're back, and maybe this could be the start of that. But then I feel like them winning would just be. I think they see more benefit in keeping the Usos looking strong than rebuilding what the Hurt Business were. You know what I mean? So
I guess though the Hurt Business win, then it allows them to obviously talk about Lashley in a positive manner, and kind of there's that kind of thing. They'll be talking about Lashley. They'll be talking a lot about Lashley and Reigns in this match, I'm guessing. So, and if Lashley is to go on to lose to Goldberg later on, maybe it stops the whole faction from looking weak. I'm not too sure, because again, I do think the Hurt Business kind of reunion was just so sudden and so just like kind of, it's a ratings ploy. Obviously they want the ratings and they want to pop that, and wanted to obviously get to the 6-man tag they had, obviously with Lashley teaming with the Hurt Business to face the New Day, all three of them obviously a few weeks back. But yeah, no, I think like it's a difficult one, but I'd say the Usos. So we all said the Usos, right?
I think we've all said, Dan and Rob both said Usos. I've said it, and you've said it, so we've all gone for the Usos. We'll wait a little bit longer again to try and get Rob involved with the King of the Ring stuff and the Queen's Crown. But do you want to touch on some of that as far as like, just opinions on it, or will that kind of lean too far into your predictions?
No. We can talk about it. Like I think, in terms of this, like I'm happy that it's back. I really do enjoy the King of the Ring stuff. And obviously, I am happy they are doing a female version 2, women's version 2. It makes sense. It really fits into, obviously, the theme of the show, which is a handy one. So, it'd be interesting to see, again, if they do the same thing next year. I think, personally, they should. And it's, I think next year they should make it bigger, potentially. They could include... Obviously, there's lots of women on the roster, lots of men on the roster too, to be fair. And so I always used to like the first rounds of the tournament, when it was 16, and obviously like you have some people, you get more underdogs that way. But this way, it was a bit like, oh, well, we've seen one match, now we're only see like one more, and that's it, basically.
Yeah.
And there was some really weird choices I felt on both sides of this. But anyway, we've got to this final, and again, I'll stop that there. But in terms of King of the Ring, like. It's interesting how they use it, though, because it does seem that the person who wins King of the Ring gets the King gimmick. It's a very odd thing to do. Like, when you win the Royal Rumble or Money in the Bank, I guess it is kind of like that for a short period. Like, obviously, there's Mr. and Mrs. Money in the Bank, you know what I mean? But there's not like... It's not like when you win the briefcase that... You dress up as a briefcase, like you walk around the suit backstage at all times because you're holding a briefcase. Like it is very much like you're still a wrestler, but just happened to have won that accomplishment. With the King of the Ring, it is very much like you will wear that crown and that robe and get the what's it called again? Cipher or spear, whatever it is.
Cipher.
Is it cipher? Scepter.
Look at us, we're British and we don't know anything about royalty.
Spectre. That's the last Bond film, I
think. Speaking of which, check out your Bond review on the RN Screen 1 channel.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I'll let people know about that. But thanks for that. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm trying to think of the last person who won King of the Ring and didn't get the King gimmick. Because Corbin did, Sheamus did, Barrett did. Regal did, even though he then got suspended.
I mean, Edge wasn't a King gimmick, but he kind of wore this Edge and Angle. No, Brock Lesnar probably nothing to do with it. I don't think he used much at all. The other two, Edge and Angle, put on the crown. And didn't Edge get a trophy?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because Christian was holding it all the time, and that was sowing the seeds to their breakup, wasn't it? Christian being jealous and stuff like that. Yeah, I think he had a trophy, which looked more like the Stanley Cup.
We had King Savage, King Booker. It's been like, I'd say we are at the stage where more people who have won King of the Ring got the King gimmick than haven't got it, basically, is what I'm getting at. And particularly in this period where they had Jerry the King Lawler wrestle as obviously the King in the early 90s, it was very confusing because you had obviously a King of the Ring winner who was on the same roster as a gimmick of someone who had the gimmick, Jerry the King Lawler. It's
kind of the same now with Charlotte, isn't it? So,
well, you could say Charlotte, and you could also say Shinsuke. He's now King Nakamura too. We got Prince too. Prince Bálor.
Will the Prince become the king?
And Shayna Baszler was the Queen of Hearts. Queen of Hearts?
Queen of Spades. Yeah.
Queen of Spades, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. We've already got a lot of these stuff, but it'd be interesting. Obviously, again, this is the first time they're doing it from a female perspective as well. My door's just gone, so I'll pause that thought.
You can run and get that. I'll fill for a little bit of time. But yeah, I guess I just talked to the viewer. I agree with what Lucas is saying. Really, I think it's interesting to see that they're bringing people on who aren't actually involved as far as you thought they would be. I thought Charlotte would be getting to the finals. I thought she'd actually win it. I guess Zillion's got this whole Queen of the Damned thing she's really into, so that would make sense. But we'll touch into predictions for that in a bit. And yeah, will the Prince become the king, I guess, is a thing they could be going for. Yeah, not much. Does anyone in the comments want to talk about something? Let me know, because I'm here on my own for a few minutes, quite clearly. We are waiting as well for Rob to join us. He should be coming on soon. But again, if you are new here, please subscribe, check out more of our content. Right up next, we'll be doing a watch along as well. So stick around for that. And then after the show, we'll also be doing a recap and review. I can see that Lucas is back now. So let's get on with some of that. Let's bring Lucas back into it. Hello. Okay. So we haven't got much longer to go. We are going to be here for about a few more minutes, 5 more minutes. I'll just let Rob know. And then we'll hopefully get into wrapping this up with a King of the Ring and a Queen's Crown prediction as well. And then after that, like I said, we'll be back for something that's new for us, really, a watch along for an actual pay-per-view, mate. It's going to be very, very exciting. You'll see our instant reactions. You'll see our takes on things as we go along. And like I said, after that, we will have our recap and review. Do you want to continue with your point, Lucas? What do you see?
Yeah, so interesting how they do how they do this with the women. Are the women going to get the Queen gimmick? Which again will play very heavily into my prediction for that match, which I don't know when we'll have to talk about. So that'll be the end of my point anyway, to be fair.
Okay, well, with that in mind, I think we should probably just get on with our predictions. I don't think Rob's going to get here just in time, but he'll be here for the watch along anyway. So let's go with, we'll see what Dan said first to kind of kill a little bit of time, just in case Rob can't join us. Dan has gone for, let's have a look. What do you want to do first? Queen's Crown or the King of the Ring?
Let's do the King of the Ring first.
Okay, let's do the King of the Ring first. Dan has gone for Xavier Woods. So Xavier Woods winning the King of the Ring, I guess, makes sense with the whole, he's been campaigning for this thing for quite a long time. So, should we stick it with, I went first last time. Do you want to go first this time, mate?
Yeah, I think this is the easier one to predict because I think that there's a clear direction they could go with one of the people. I don't see them giving it to Xavier Woods.
Wow.
I don't know. I just don't see it. Like, I think to be fair, like there could be some fun segments they could have with the New Day, obviously with the crown and the scepter and all that kind of stuff. But then it's like, well, is now Xavier going to have to be a singles wrestler, or is he still going to have the king thing as part of the tag team? It's very odd. Like, it's a very odd dynamic where I think it just fits Finn Balor a bit better. Like I said, he's already Prince Balor, so make him King Balor. And there potentially is a feud there, I guess, ready for him against Nakamura, which, from people who are into that kind of more of a pure wrestling thing could obviously get behind. Because I guess this is where this is why I differ. I think one match, the King thing is going to come into it a lot, or the Crown thing will come into it a lot. And I think they're going to choose the women for it more, but we'll get to that pick in a second. But I think it's hard because usually it is a villain who wins the King of the Ring as well, who gets that gimmick. So obviously both are obviously baby faces. And I do kind of think the Finn win might help, obviously, the Demon's loss, obviously, at Extreme Rules, and just kind of redirect him into where he needs to be. End of the day, Xavier Woods is comfortable in the New Day. The New Day are going to be at every single program that WWE ever produced, probably forever. He's not like he's got a lack of TV time anyway. I don't see what direction you really put him in. Otherwise, like, is he going to challenge Roman Reigns? Like, probably not. Like, is he going to, obviously the IC champion, fair enough, but I see more stuff for Balor with this win than Xavier Woods. So I'm going to go for Xavier Woods coming close and putting on an incredible performance in this match, but for Finn Balor to win.
Yeah, man, I agree, man. Because I can see it going either way. Like, it seems too obvious that Xavier would win, but it also seems very cruel if he doesn't. So I'm really torn on this one, man. I think it's a great story if Xavier wins it, because now they've all got something solo. Because if he's not going to ever get to the level of winning the world title in WWE's eyes, they haven't positioned in that way. Like, so far, I think there was always hints that Big E and Kofi would. By the way, WWE used them, whereas Xavier, I feel like they might see this as his ceiling, or like an IC level or something like that. Not saying I think he's very talented. I really enjoy watching him, but I'm not sure WWE see it that way. So I think they might see this as, this is your one, and now every member of them has won something individual that they can boast about forever. So I can kind of see it in that sense. But at the same time, they're pushing Balor. Is that an ice cream man you got going on there? Lovely. But I can kind of see it being Balor. But, oh man, I'm really torn. I'm going to go... feel good. I'm going to go feel good and say Woods. It's really hard, man, because I can really see Balor. But yeah, I just think Woods, like, because if he doesn't, they'd miss that opportunity. What makes me think this isn't the time? It's timing, because like E is already the standout performer with his solo run. Like, we don't need another. Like, if E weren't the champ, I could see Woods winning it more so. But so I feel like he might be a victim of timing, as far as we can only push one member of the New Day in the solo kind of thing, and the other two are you kind of holding back for now. But yeah, I've put my kind of hat down on that, I guess, and I've gone with Woods. As far as Rob's pick, Rob has gone for, I'll get to his message here. I'm torn because Prince Balor could become King Balor. That's what we were saying as well. But he says, I want Woods, so I'm going Woods. So he's going with his heart and what he wants. I think I've kind of done the same there, to be fair.
And sometimes you're right with this stuff. WWE do like this kind of stuff. So yeah, it really could go out. I know it's a cliche, but it could go either way, this one, I think.
It really could. Okay, with that in mind, all right, so we'll move on now to the thing for the Queen's Crown before we get out of here and move on to our watch-along, which will be coming quite soon. Right, so with the Queen's Crown, another tough one that I guess you could see going either way, personally at least. In the interest of fairness, let's jump straight in. We'll do Dan's prediction here. He's gone for Zelina Vega. Rob, hopefully, will give us his prediction as well, and then Rob will join us again for the watch along in a little while. Right, Sissik just by default comes back to me. I'll do this one first, and I'll say I really, really, really want it to be Zelina. I think she'll kind of play it really well. Again, she has this thing for the Queen of the Damned, it seems, in her gear, and she seems to be a big fan of that, and I think it would fit very, very well with that. I think the way they brought her back hasn't been ideal. I think she is a great star, and if you're not going to give her the title, this is a good thing to do. At the same time, I can kind of see a Nikki ASH situation going on here, and them giving it to Doudrop because they just want that quirky, well, hey, she's the new one we all like, you know, and the whole story with Eva Marie, and that's what I'm worried about. And again, this isn't I don't mean for it to be a smear on Doudrop. I think she's a great performer as well. I just don't like this current version of her, the way they've used her, and that's what I'm scared of. It's going to be another Otis, another what was the other example I just gave? Nikki ASH, in the sense that they just do it because that's what we're doing at the moment, and because of that, Zelina suffers. So in this one, I think I might have to go more with my head and my fearful kind of thing, and go with, I think they're going to give it to Doudrop.
Cool.
Yeah, and I really hope they don't, because I think it's a great opportunity to give it to Zelina, but I'm fearful of it. So last time I went with my heart, this time I'm going to go with opposite of my heart, I guess. And yeah, go with, I think Doudrop's coming out of it as the Queen. What about yourself?
I'll be quick. Obviously, the pre-show match is about to start.
Cool.
So I'll be quick with this, and I think I'm going to go the other way. I think Zelina Vega, like, it is perfect for her to win this. And it would be one where they could really do the Queen gimmick, you know, as part of this. Well, I don't know if they could do. Like, there is like an argument there, like with Doudrop, you know, to win, and I guess there is stories they could go into, or areas they could go into, promoting stuff such as anti-bullying, and obviously using it to help with that message, that side of the business that they do, obviously, kind of outside of obviously the in-ring stuff. You know, because Doudrop does have that bit of like, you can be anything, that kind of ilk to it. But I do just think that, you know, going back to Zelina Vega's reintroduction to the company, even stemming from her exit of the company, like for her to come back, there must have been something to entice her. And I think, but again, we don't know how far in terms of discussions they were in back then, you know, for this event. Which obviously it was about 5 months ago.
Yeah.
But it is difficult. It's one of those where I don't know how she would really beat her, other than obviously like a dirty roll up, I'm guessing, because obviously there's a bit of a size difference between the two competitors. And yeah, basically, I just think that Zelina Vega needs it more than Doudrop needs it.
I agree, man, but I'm fearful it's going the other way. So yeah, it's weird because I agree with all your points there. So you're going Vega as well. We've also got Rob going with, he said to me, we'll all bow down to Queen Vega. Hey, mate, I want to be part of that. I hope you're right. Well, kind of don't now, because that will ruin my predictions scores. Speaking of which, before we move on, these are the current scores at the moment. Check out our live reactions in the watch along to how that table will change. And also later on, like I said, we've got a watch along next, and then we've got a recap and review. So that is pretty much it from us right now. Please stay tuned. Again, as you can see below, the watch along link is right in the description. Follow that. We'll be on there in about 10 to 15 minutes time. So join us for that. And then later on, please join us for the recap and review. Thank you very much for everyone that's watched. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you, Lucas, for joining me as well. And we will see you, well, very, very soon when we come here to talk all about Crown Jewel again. See you guys in a bit.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action. Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action. Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.